One fan base, one city, one team brings us all together. The Cleveland Browns. If you're a Browns fan, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Down with the Browns.
And welcome back to another episode of Down with the Browns. We're doing a game preview of the Week 16 matchup of the Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans. I'm here with my co-host, Jake from Stat Farm. How are you today, Jake?
Pretty good this morning, ready to rock and roll.
Yes, sir. We are back. And I'm excited about this matchup. I mean, 2 games yesterday. One kind of went our way, the other not so much. But there are certain scenarios where we can clinch the playoffs this week.
Yeah, technically, a few teams got to lose here and there. We can't. I think we can technically clinch, but I think it's a long shot. A lot's going to have to happen. Of course, we've already stated on the podcast a few days back. If we do win today, if the Cleveland Browns win today, probability percentage for the playoff goes up to over 99. A win alone does that regardless of whatever else happens. So the most important thing is to win today, win today, win today.
Yeah, it's like you said, a lot has to happen, and we control our own destiny. So, like, if we win today, we need to win today. Like, it's. I'm gonna say it's a must win. Like every other week, it's a must win.
Absolutely. A win today, or not solidifies, but increases our chances of getting to 5. Worst case scenario, if we lose to the Texans, worst case scenario, we would be at the 6, regardless of what else happened, and the Texans would have the 5 over us. But if you guys haven't noticed, if you look at the current playoff scenario as it is, Jacksonville has the 4, we beat them. The Colts right now, I want to say, are in contention of the 6. We beat them. The Texans are also in contention of the 6 or the 7. We beat them. So we have we want to beat them. I'll say it like that. I'm already speaking into an existence, but we want to beat them. So assuming we beat all 3 teams, that means we hold a tiebreaker with all 3, and we don't play the Bills this regular season.
Yeah, like you said, if we do lose, Texans do take the 5.
Yep.
But I'm pretty hopeful today. We got a lot of people out, and they got a lot of people out.
Yes.
And there was a headline yesterday, I believe you were the one that texted in the group chat, and it said, Texans or Browns face shorthanded Texans.
Texans.
Like we don't have enough people on the IR to make an actual football team. So, like, our whole 53-man roster is totally different than it was at the beginning of the year.
That was hilarious. That was just absolutely hilarious. If you were watching the Bengals and Steelers game, right before halftime, they showed a little headline, bottom left-hand corner, it said Browns face shorthanded Texans. And I'm thinking we are the most injury-ridden team currently in the National Football League. And they're saying shorthanded Texans because they got 5 players out. Well, not 5 players out, 3 players out with 3 more that were currently listed as questionable.
Yeah.
Of course, we already know C.J. Stroud's out for today. We already know that Will Anderson's out for today. And Blake Cashman is out for today for the Texans, of course. But 3 other players that were listed as questionable were Nico Collins, Malik Collins, and Denzel Perryman. So those 3 players we don't know yet. We will probably find out within the next couple of hours.
Yeah, once we get closer to game time, they'll make that stuff official, who's in, who's out. We got a few guys that are questionable, or one guy that's questionable, Joe Bitonio. I think if he can play, that's huge.
Of course.
I mean, all-pro, one of the best guards in the league.
Right.
I would say he's a Hall of Famer just because of how long he's been in the league, how long he's been able to do his thing.
Yep.
We need Bitonio out there to get that ground game going. Kunasik's out, Okoronkwo's out, Walker is out, and Thornhill is out as well.
Yep. So those are going to be key players that we'll be missing, no doubt. What about Posick?
I think he's going to play. I think he might be listed as questionable, but he probably will play because he's been practicing in the last few days.
Good.
But yeah, I've got some actual per game stats for both teams. So on average, the Browns are averaging 22.1 points per game. 206.3 passing yards per game, 123.7 rushing yards per game, and they are allowing 158.9 passing yards a game, allowing 102 rushing yards a game. The turnover ratio is -7, and game time or time of possession is 33:05.
Are we still first in the league in time of possession?
And Brick said Batonio's playing for sure. I
Heck
hope
yeah.
so. And Merry Christmas to you, Mark.
Woo-hoo.
Go Browns.
Heck yeah.
And the Texans, they're averaging 21.9 points per game, so pretty close there. They're quite a bit ahead of us in passing yards.
Yeah.
253.4, 100.3 rushing yards. Here's where it's kind of different in defensive stats.
Correct.
They're allowing 239.1 passing yards per game,
Yeah.
93.5 rushing yards per game, plus 8 in turnover ratio, and 29.47 in time of possession.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are saying we need to eventually simmer down on the passing game because we've been passing. I think Joe Flacco he's thrown over 40 passing attempts in all 3 games that he's playing. I want to say 44 against the Rams, 45 against
Jags.
the Jags, and then 44 against the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
But the Texans' pass defense is kind of low on the ranking side. It's funny, Christian got all of the numbers. I've got the rankings. As far as the Texans' overall defensive stats, they're 14th in points per game, 15th in yards allowed, 6th in rushing yards allowed, and 24th in passing yards allowed. So I do expect us to get back to keep slinging the ball like we have been the past couple of games, because of hopefully at least because of those stats. Now, of course, if we feed Jerome Ford the ball and he's getting 4 or 5 yards a carry, I'm not going to complain either.
Oh, I'm not either. But I do expect a big game from Flacco, and I think David Njoku keeps up his streak. I think he goes off tonight or today, because the Texans are lacking a few players in that linebacking slot. So, I mean, Cashman's out. So I think that's big on our part. So I expect to see him, I would say, close to 100 yards and a touchdown. Like I'm going with that today for Njoku. I'm going to go 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
And I see the ground game going a little bit better because we've not been able to run the ball much at all the last 3 weeks.
For several reasons, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm expecting us to get it to go finally. Their rush defense is pretty solid that they are without Will Anderson Jr.
Correct.
So that's big.
They
do got one cat who has been pretty solid for them on the defensive side of the ball, and it's Greenyard.
Yeah.
Grenard or Greenyard, however you want to say it. I mean, he has, I believe, 12 sacks. Let me see. Yeah, 12.5 sacks, 15 tackles for a loss. So the dude is a run stopper and can pass rush.
Yeah.
So that's going to be hard to stop, but I think if we can limit or run away from him, kind of like how people do with Myles Garrett, run away from Myles, go to that opposite side. Hopefully, we can do that effectively today and get the run game going.
Yeah, one matchup also going to the passing game. Stingley Jr., of course, has been playing lights out. On their pass defense. He's one of the main guys as far as their secondary goes. If we can get through him, Flacco could have another huge day. But he's going to be the one that kind of dampers the passing game. I expect him to be on Cooper. I expect him. I mean, you never know, but
which they've got Steven Nelson as well. Both of them have 4 picks on the year.
Okay.
So Steven Nelson's no slouch either. Like you said, I think that dampers a little bit in the secondary.
Yeah.
That's why I think Njoku's going to have such a big game because these guys are going to have Amari and Elijah Moore kind of, locked down a little bit. But
I think someone's eventually going to be open as far as our passing game goes. If they try to go after Njoku, Elijah Moore's going to be open. If they go after Elijah Moore, heck, we'll put Marquise Goodwin out there and
deep ball it.
I mean, we've got that ability now. That's something that we've needed for quite some time with Joe Flacco.
Yeah, and it was so awesome to watch last week because I was watching it at my girlfriend's house, and when I saw that deep ball get thrown, I was like, well, we've tried this about all year. It's not worked yet. And then he catches it. I was like, oh my God, we finally got it. We finally got it.
That's pretty wild.
And I was hyped about that. So I'm excited. I expect us to run that a little bit more today just to try, because Flacco's arm is insane. Dude can throw a spiral for like 132 football fields.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the Texans defense is pretty stout, actually.
It is.
The way going into the year, I did not expect them to be as good as they are, nor be pushing for a playoff appearance.
Yeah, which a lot of that was CJ Stroud. We can't deny that. We were talking about that on the podcast this past Monday. If you take out, I won't say take out, that's a bad way of putting it. If CJ Stroud is not a member of the Texans, the Houston Texans do not have a winning record. They're 6-8 at the absolute best.
Yeah.
And in a sense, the Titans game last week confirmed that. Because Case Keenum was not putting up the type of numbers that CJ Stroud was putting up. One player that you do want to watch on that Texans offense is Devin Singletary. He had over 100 rushing yards for over 20 carries in that game. He was one of the main reasons that the Texans got back into that game. If you were catching up last week, the Titans had a real big lead. Texans came back, and he was one of the main reasons for that comeback.
Yeah. So. And we've got a question. It is from Brick. It's is Miles gonna get some holding calls today? I sure hope so. It's about time. I mean, the media has been putting the refs on blast for this all week. Actually, for the past 2 weeks, Browns fans have been going at them for about 3 years, 4 years now about the holding calls on Miles that are not getting called. I expect them to get a few, because I mean, if you watch the Steelers and Bengals game yesterday, TJ Watt got a few. So I expect them to keep that the same way for Miles.
Could be. It could be. Now, don't forget, Laramie Tunsil's going to be on the other side today, and he's one of the better tackles that Garrett's faced this year. So I don't see as much holds in general. You know, last week it was a hold just about every play against the Bears. I don't see that being the case today. But like Christian was saying, you may see some holding calls, but Laramie Tunsil's going to give Garrett everything he's got. It's not going to be as easy for Garrett as it typically is unless they line up Garrett in other packages in other spots on the line.
Well, here's my thing is, I get it. Tunsil is a great tackle. He's one of the best. But Myles Garrett's also one of the best. And when you're one of the best, you got to put up the numbers. You got to do the thing. And we've seen Myles do it. We've seen Myles do it against Trent Williams this year. He literally threw Trent Williams, who is the best left tackle the NFL has seen since Joe Thomas.
Yeah, but I don't see Laramie Tunsil being the type of lineman that holds every single time. I don't. I mean, I'm not saying Garrett's not going to have a good game or he's not going to be as productive. I just don't see Laramie Tunsil being the type to hold every single play.
Yeah.
He'll do what he can the right way, because he's one. I don't want to say he's a top 5 left tackle, but he's on the higher end of the totem pole.
Yeah. I would say he's top 5.
You think so?
Oh yeah, Tunsil's definitely top 5.
Okay.
Maybe top 3 left tackle in the league. I would say that. But moving backwards, going back to Amari Cooper.
Sure.
He is 15 yards shy of getting that 1,000-yard mark. And it's kind of wild that this is even a stat, that he will become the first wide receiver to have back-to-back 1,000-yard years.
That is the crazy. So many people have came into the Cleveland Browns, and you would expect those players to go back-to-back 1,000. You would expect Webster Slaughter to go back-to-back 1,000. You, of course, in our generation, Jarvis Landry. Braylon Edwards, even, he had a couple of good years. I mean, we could do this list for hours. There's so many, and Cooper's going to be the first one probably to do it, barring any injuries.
Yeah, it's crazy. We've had guys like Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Josh Gordon. I'm shocked that Josh Gordon didn't have it, but I mean,
he would have.
He couldn't stay on the field.
Yeah.
There's, like you said, we could go on and on and on about this, but Amari Cooper is the first one through injuries. He's played through numerous injuries. And I think he had one a few weeks ago, and he's still been balling. The hip injury, the groin injury, concussion. He's still out there no matter what, and he's getting it done.
Yep.
So, props to him for being a dog.
Oh, gosh, for sure.
The greatest steal of all time.
Oh, kidding. No kidding. It'll be interesting to see what happens next year, which main focus is right now winning ball games, trying to get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But it is going to be interesting to see what happens next year if he stays on the team, if he renews contract, anything of that nature and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that I'm excited for today is we control our own destiny.
Yep.
And it's rare that we do this. Like even back in 2020, we had to have somebody lose, and then it got down to week 17. We had to win to get in, and we did it. So it feels good that we're at week 16. Still counting this week, there's 3 weeks left of regular season football.
Yep.
And I think we could get it done. Hopefully with a win today and a win next week, we clinch.
Yeah, basically. Even if we don't clinch next week, a lot, and I mean a lot, would have to happen
for us not to.
For us not to. I mean, the sky will have to fall, which technically has happened before with us Browns fans.
Yeah.
But I don't see if a win today and a win next week should get the job done. 2 out of 3 out of the last 3 games this season, 2 wins should get the job done easily. I feel like. Now, we were talking about it yesterday, Christian and I, about, what seed, if assuming we do clinch, assuming we do our job, what seed would be best for us. And of course, ultimately the 5 seed, it would be ideal, but it's looking like Kansas City's going to get that 3.
Yep.
And for some of you Browns fans out there, if you're picking your seed, do you want the 5 or the 6? It's an interesting question. Christian was saying yesterday he would almost rather have Kansas City, and it's a really good point because right now Kansas City's not playing their best football, and we match up better with them almost than any of the other current division leaders.
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't want to play. Buffalo's really hot right now.
Yeah.
Buffalo kind of scares me. Not like tremendously, but I think I don't know if we would have the the oomph to beat a team like that. Miami scares me. Don't want to face them.
Right.
I would like to see if the Ravens do fall out of the 1 seed. I wouldn't mind playing them just for the fact that we would get the Joe Flacco versus Ravens playoff game.
Yeah.
And that would just be so funny. And I think that'd be just the main topic all week.
Yeah.
Going into that game.
My dream scenario is that the Bills get the 7 and play the Ravens and absolutely slaughter them the first round, because I just don't want to see the Ravens win ever.
Yeah.
Ever. And I'm perfectly fine. My dream scenario is whether we get the 5 or the 6, we host the AFC Championship game against the Bills. That would be like
that would be insane.
Perfection. But I mean, I'm dreaming there. So
yeah. A little rundown on the game, stats wise, spread wise, and over under. So ESPN has the Browns projected to win 53.3%. They're the favored according to ESPN. Let me get an updated spread real quick because I did check this last night. And they could have changed it because lines are always moving.
While you're doing that, I'm actually surprised that ESPN has us winning this game.
Because Stroud's out.
Probably
That's
so.
why.
Has to be.
Yep.
Because we do not play well on the road for the most part. We have a road record right now of 2-4.
Yeah.
And the Texans have a home record of 5-2.
Yep.
So.
But going back to that spread, the spread stayed the same. It is Cleveland -3. It did move. It moved down a point. The over-under went from 40.5 down to 39.5 since last night. In the last 5 games, both teams are 3-2. So it's going to be – I think this is going to be probably one of the better games to watch today. A lot of playoff implications. I mean, I get it. Both – neither team has a lot of starters on both sides of the ball. But – we'll see who's more resilient. We'll see. It's all going to come down to Kevin Stefanski to win this game for us.
Yeah, I can see that. It's ultimately a play-in game for the playoffs. Whoever wins, has total. Well, I don't say total control, but if the Texans win, they have a bigger chance of keeping 5. If Cleveland wins, our chances of maintaining the 5 go up dramatically today. And of course, our probability of the playoffs overall go to 99%, probably over 99 if you want to get technical about it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, but I agree with the Kevin Stefanski thing. His play calling. A lot of people have not been liking his play calling this year, off and on. But he will probably be one coaching in general. I won't say just Stefanski, but of course on the other side you've got D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah,
He's also
solid.
a candidate for Coach of the Year as well.
Mhm.
So it could come down to those two, and
Yeah.
it could come down to experience.
Yeah,
So.
for sure. And do you have a playoff picture, like what has to happen, path to the playoff type thing?
For this weekend,
Yeah,
not necessarily for this weekend because basically so much has to happen. I want to say
I think Pittsburgh winning kind of. I mean, we wanted Pittsburgh to lose in the long run to win
to win
because
in the long run.
because it knocks the Bengals back a game after
Right.
us, puts Pittsburgh above Bengals, so the
Yep.
Bengals are now at the bottom of the division.
Correct.
The Bengals are 0-5 in conference play right now.
That is the weirdest thing on planet Earth.
That's so funny.
It's
I
funny.
love it.
Yeah, and now that the Bengals are 8-7, if we win the next two, that Bengals game can almost be completely, I don't want to say useless, but we can sit out starters. We don't
Yeah.
have to win that last game. That's what you want to have, that sense of comfortability. And I can't remember the last time the Cleveland Browns rested starters in the last week of the regular season.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's ever happened in the expansion era.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm going to give a little rundown
Mhm.
of around the week.
Mhm.
We can just do predictions on each of the games that are today. So 1:00 slate, we got the Browns versus the Texans.
Right.
The spread, Cleveland -3. I'm going to say we're both going to go Browns on that one.
You can go Browns out on this isn't my field
No,
of
like the pick to
expertise.
win.
Oh, to pick to win.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, duh. Yeah.
Yeah. Then the other game, Commanders versus Jets. The Jets are -3 as well. It's at New Jersey.
Oh, yeah. Commanders and Jets. You've got the worst defense in the NFL playing the worst offense in the NFL statistically. So that one's going to be a barn burner, guys.
Yeah.
Hold on to your seats.
Yeah. I'm gonna say Commanders win that one.
Probably.
Yeah.
Is Zach Wilson playing?
I'm not for sure who's going to be starting quarterback, but like I said, Zach Wilson's dog poop. He's horrible, dude. But I don't think he'll play because I know he got put in concussion protocol, I think, last week. But I think Sam Howell's going to have a decent game today, and I think he's going to have enough yards and enough good plays to put them over the top.
And a lot of players on the Commanders are still playing for their jobs and stuff. There's a lot of fight in that program. So
yeah, which I mean they're overturning that whole thing next year,
and we do have them next year, and I think it's at Washington next year.
Yeah. And then the other 1:00 game, Seattle versus Titans without Will Levis. Probably going to be a Ryan Tannehill game.
Geno's playing too, I think. So
is he?
Yeah.
Oh, I would about rather play. I'd rather play Geno than Drew Lock after that game last week.
That is true, which you never know, but still, the Seahawks are kind of hot. We do won't have to root for them next week, but I will be rooting for the Seahawks next week as they play the Steelers on Fox next Sunday at 4:00.
Yep. And the spread on that, or the over-under, or the spread on that game is Seahawks -3. I see a lot of -3s today. And then the next game, Colts versus Falcons. Colts are 8-6. Falcons are 6-8. The Falcons are -3 to win that game.
Really?
Yep.
I guess it's because it's at Atlanta, maybe home field advantage.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to root for Atlanta in that game. Of course, that does help solidify our playoff chances. A Colts loss does raise that percentage that you guys have been looking at on Twitter. So we want the Colts to lose, but it doesn't affect us majorly if they win. I'm just going to say Falcons. We do have a pretty good friend of ours that's a Falcons fan as well. So give me Falcons.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Falcons are playing for more because the playoff spot they need, and they've got Taylor Heineke playing, not Desmond Ridder.
And they do have a chance of still winning that NFC South. Technically,
they'd have to win today, and the Bucs have to lose.
Yeah, which are both very possible.
Yeah. I want to say Falcons, but I think it might be the Colts.
I don't want to say Colts just
I
yet.
don't want to say Colts,
I
but I
don't.
think they could pull that out because, I mean, Minshew and then Zach
Yeah.
Moss and
True.
all them boys
Oh
have been
yeah,
playing
they've
real
got
well.
the talent. I just want to root against them.
And
for
Shane Stockton's a beast.
He is, and he's another Coach of the Year candidate.
Mhm.
I don't think that he will get the nod over Stefanski or D'Amico or Dan Campbell, but
Yeah.
he's in the running.
Yeah, for sure. In the next game, we've got a lot of 1:00 games today. Ooh, the best game of the week. The Green Bay Packers versus the Panthers.
Barn burner.
Yeah, I mean, must-watch TV. I might actually skip out on the Browns game to watch that game.
Oh, wow.
Just kidding.
Is it at Green Bay?
No, it's at Carolina.
Oh, wow.
So they're going to be playing in front of the Tens today in Carolina.
Oh, man.
Green Bay -4 on that one. If the Packers don't win that game, they need to fire everybody.
Yeah,
just
Matt
blow it up.
LaFleur's job would be in jeopardy if they lost that game for sure. Jordan Love, what he's been trying to build up will be just completely tarnished because he has had a pretty decent year. He's been inconsistent, but Green Bay does need to win that game for their
playoff hopes.
I don't know that they'll make it. I just don't. But I mean, they're not mathematically eliminated. So
yeah. And then we've got the Lions versus the Vikings. Detroit -3.
Division game.
It's at Minnesota.
Minnesota could win that game.
Their defense is solid. It's all going to come down to how effective they are on offense.
Yeah.
Because the Detroit Lions have been one of the best and most effective offenses in the league.
Correct. And the majority of the Lions, not the majority of their losses, but they struggled the most this year against division opponents. The Thanksgiving game.
Packers.
They got beat by the Bears. So, I mean, who knows what the Vikings are capable of doing. So, I mean, if the Vikings win out and the Lions lose out, I want to say the Vikings win the NFC North, which is a lot to ask for.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not
possible.
I mean, it's possible.
Well,
it's not
I feel like they struggle in primetime games, other than the Week 1 matchup versus Kansas City.
True.
I think ever since then they've not played well. Like as of recent, they've not played well in primetime games.
That is true.
And then we move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Buccaneers. Jacksonville is a -1, so they're expecting a really close game today. Jacksonville's defense is booty.
Give me Jacksonville in that game. I want them to lose. I want them to lose. But they are still playing for the AFC South. I don't think that they will just kind of relinquish all that. They will probably take over that division.
Yeah. And then we've got the Cardinals versus the Bears, and it's Chicago -1 or -4. So I expect the Bears to win that.
Me too. Tons of players are still playing for their job. You take out a few plays, and they beat us last week. So, yeah.
And Cowboys versus Dolphins. That'll be a good one to watch.
That will be a good one to watch.
I think the Dolphins win, though.
Is it at Miami?
Yep.
Usually Miami is pretty legit at home. You take out the Titans game, and the Dolphins are one of the best teams at home. So give me the Dolphins. Now, I mean, the Cowboys, you never know what they could do. They could bounce back from the Bills game and just surprise everybody. But Cowboys also tend to struggle on the road. So
yep. And then to end the night, we have the Patriots versus the Broncos. Broncos are -7.
Yeah, the Broncos are doing everything they can to win that, get that playoff spot as well. So they're going to be playing this game like it's a playoff game. They still haven't, they did lose just recently. I can't remember who they lost to, but the Broncos still have something to play for. They can still get that 5 or 6 or 7. They're on the bad end of the totem pole in the sense that they're having to root against teams like us, teams like the Texans, teams, to lose.
They lost to the Lions last week.
Oh, yeah, that was it.
17-42.
That was it. That was the game they lost. I couldn't remember for sure.
Yep.
But the Broncos are relying on other teams to lose, just like we were in years past. So.
Yep. But, we control our own destiny. We're hoping for a big dub today. Expect Joe Flacco to continue his run of dominance.
Yep.
Njoku to do the same. I'm expecting a big game out of Miles and Za'Darius. They need to pressure Case Keenum, make him force the issue, throw some picks. We need some turnovers. We got to win the turnover battle for once in our life. In our life.
No kidding.
I've never seen a team win 9 games and have a -7 turnover ratio.
Yeah.
because we turn the ball over like 20 times a game.
That is very true. But I expect the Texans to be run first today. I don't expect them to get pass heavy like they have been with C.J. Stroud. They're going to have to make some changes. They're going to have to go run first, give Singletary some touches, and then do some play action, pass type plays to get Case Keenum some, I don't say freedom, but some
leeway.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's a better way of saying it. Yep.
But, you know, I think we've successfully covered this game.
Absolutely.
And around the NFL.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be live on Tuesday to recap this game. And as always, go Browns.
Go Browns.
Birds up!